welcome to Digital Bharat 2.0, where we put the spotlight on the digital transformation journey of SMBs. As we all know, the Indian SMEs had struggled to keep cash flows intact and maintain business continuity during the pandemic. By deferring costs, including fixed operations, marketing, and human resources, they attempted to stay afloat and extend the little runway ahead of them in the uncertainties of the global pandemic. However, the fact that many businesses had set afoot on their digitalization journeys, the transition to complete adoption led to a sharp uptick in sales. This transformation also served as a hotbed for the emergence of new innovations and technologies that could help companies optimize processes and scale their growth. One of the most pivotal technologies to have elevated the growth stories of small and medium businesses to newer heights was cloud computing. Businesses that adopted cloud solutions within their core infrastructure saw a rapid growth in efficiency and business outcomes. An EY NASSCOM survey report recently concluded that 4 in every 5 enterprises are set to increase their cloud budgets over the next 12 months. Moreover, 39% of medium sized companies and 38% of small companies embarked on their cloud journey during the pandemic. In Digital Bharat 2.0's first Tech Shala, we speak to R. Narayan, President FICCI, CMSME, Praval Singh, Vice President Marketing and Customer Experience Zoho Corp, and Gopalakrishnan Ramaswamy, Tech Head SMB India SAC at Amazon Web Services to take a closer look at some unique use cases and solutions that bridge the gap of technology and upscaling for SMEs as we discuss digitalization, and building future-ready businesses. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let me start with you, Mr. Narayan. Companies worldwide are leveraging emerging technologies to grow their competitive advantage and drive strategy and business outcomes. How can businesses navigate the complexities of an increasingly digital world?
According to me, you can take the horse to the pond. You can't make it drink water, right? But if you look at the resilience of the Indian population and the SMEs, etc., what happens is digital is, forced on them first in their private lives, and then it seamlessly transfers itself to their business lives and to their companies, etc. I mean, if you look at the entire, the cloud phenomenon as you spoke about, a lot of them started the journey of the cloud by, adopting parts of it on their phone. And it started as a meager application, as just keeping some photographs on the cloud, and then they went through that experience, found that it was safe, etc., and then so on and so forth. They started adapting more and more through it. It was a mobile first experience that happened for most of the SMEs. That's for true. But then there were some big inflection points over the last 3-4 years, which actually helped them understand the cloud a little better and make them realize that they were using the cloud even without realizing that they had made the transition. I mean, look at GST, for example. I mean, the whole world was thinking, I mean, all of India was thinking, how would these guys adapt to GST on the cloud, on the web, etc. And, we took the horse to the pond. The horse learned to drink the water themselves by adopting it. I mean, it was a leap of faith. They all jumped in. Some managed immediately, some took some time, but then they adopted. And that's the resilience of the Indian SME that I always am so proud about. So.
Okay. All right. So, picking up from what, you just said, Praval, coming to you now, how have your clients been, navigating this increasingly, how are your clients increasingly navigating the complexities of an increasingly digital world?
Yeah, as Mr. Narayan said, right, he gave a good example of how GST came into effect, and it was a massive undertaking for the government, the countrymen, the businesses. And that's a good example of how we sort of segued into getting used to, a unified way of handling taxes. Similarly, UPI itself is a big way in how you and I in the country today transacts. But when you extend this to the business world, what we've seen with us as a company, as a business, and also with our customers is the two key challenges that businesses today face is there are lots of tools, lots of digital first tools and tools that promise what we call digital transformation. And then the second thing is, so that makes it harder to choose from, right? And typically small businesses, MSMEs more specifically, are often confused of where to start, what to begin with. And the other thing is lack of education and confidence in going digital with as far as business software is concerned. Think of how 15 years ago, using credit card online was a big deal. Today, all of us are making payments via mobile. So the same thing is happening in the business world as well. And I think how we've seen being able to handle some of the customer challenges is by offering what we believe is a unified software suite, which is one
Okay.
platform. And what it does is it avoids the problem of integration, in with integration with multiple vendors, bringing data together, and hence solves the problem of data silos, which exists in businesses and it grows exponentially as the business grows.
Hmm.
The other thing is multi-vendor contracts. When you are dealing with multiple software vendors, every vendor has their own policy, their own agreements, their own license fees, all of that. So that complexity is something that I think we and a lot of other vendors today are solving by building unified suites. The other thing is if today a business wants to differentiate themselves in this digital world, what we call it, they have to make sure that their departments, sales, marketing, finance, HR, all of them are working in cohesion in terms of how the information is flowing between these departments. The tools are nicely, seamlessly integrated, unified, all of that. And when you, as an organization, achieve that, you are able to create better customer experience for your customers and better employee experience for your employees.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something
I
that
was
we've
about to,
achieved at Zoho.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And I was about to ask you that, what new trends do you see emerging? How are you basically navigating? How did Zoho cater to these changing needs? If you could share some use cases with us.
Yeah, sure. So, see, one of the things that comes to my mind is when you look at smaller businesses and the whole idea of getting overwhelmed with so many tools, how to go about it. One thing we've seen businesses really come onto this digital bandwagon is when they start with something very simple, very trivial, a process. It could be a HR process, or it could be something as simple as an inventory management. When they start with that, and there is enough education, training, learning that happens, they at least a part of their team is able to adopt that technology, and then one thing leads to the other, right? And slowly and gradually, this sort of expands in the organization. The mistake we have seen customers sometimes make is they introduce so many tools and vendors and systems into their ecosystem, into their company, and that makes things complicated. There is no single source of truth when it comes to where is the data. Is it in the CRM? Is it in the marketing automation platform? Are they both even talking to each other? And I think that's when it becomes very overwhelming for SMEs. Because remember, we have to understand how SMEs look at digital transformation is very different from how a large company looks at it, both in terms of size, complexity, even the talent that they have. Right? Most small companies don't have a CIO or a CTO, who would sort of set this up for them. So that's something that we've seen. Having a unified platform has helped us serve better. The other thing is, I mean, if you remember 2 years ago when the world went suddenly remote distributed, there was a surge in the use of video conferencing tools, communication, collaboration platforms, and there's so many vendors that sort of solve that problem,
Sure.
including us here at Zoho. But what we have realized is increasingly businesses are becoming, the business functions are becoming cross-functional, right? A salesperson has to work closely with marketing, both have to work with the revenue team,
Yes, yes.
all of that. So the interoperability of tools within a business is very, very important. And that's where we have seen adoption of productivity and collaboration, not just as independent software suite, but within the technology. So, for example, if you are an HR person, right, does your HR software enable collaboration within itself or not?
Okay.
That is what we see is now where the demand is coming from.
Okay, all right. Very valid points made there. Mr. Gopal Krishnan, coming to you now. At AWS, how are you seeing businesses navigate the complexities of an increasingly digital world?
I think that's a great question, great and relevant question, Shruti, for small businesses currently in India. And as I talk to business leaders, right, technology leaders, one thing has become increasingly clear, Shruti, that digitization is no longer an option now. It has become
Absolutely.
mandatory and a matter of survival, right? So if you look at the more than 75 million SMBs in India, who form the backbone of our economy, right? So digitalization has become very important for the continued business growth, right? There was a study conducted recently by NASSCOM wherein they found out that 60% of the SMBs have already started using one cloud one way or the other, directly or indirectly. And they also found that by 2025 there will be so much growth that by 2025 almost 28 to 30% of the cloud will be driven by small businesses, right? And as Mr. Narayan and Mr. Praval said, there are some trends that have accelerated this transformation, including but not limited to smartphones, internet penetration, and customers are also looking for digital first solutions. Their preference is to use products, websites which are digitized than the ones that are not, right? And there's also more government driven regulations and compliance which makes it mandatory for them to go on this path, right? The new technologies that have come in, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics, which have made it very important. And just to answer one of the question wherein this whole landscape probably has become a little more confusing, but there's a lot of technologies coming. Where do I start, right? If you look at this whole landscape, we would start looking at these various levels of adoption of small businesses. Like, for example, the first level of adoption would be basic, wherein payment first solutions, payment wallets, point of sale systems, ledgers, messaging platforms. Like
Okay.
you can see very small businesses conducting business on WhatsApp, right? As they graduate up, they move to there's an explosion of e-commerce sites. They use social media to list out there so that they have more outreach to customers, right? So, and once they go to the next year, they start growing. They look at internal operational efficiencies, HR tools, compliance tools, etc., like accounting, tax, and stuff like that, right? And that is when they start adopting those tools and technologies. And when they graduate more, they become very savvy and they start looking at artificial intelligence, analytics. So this is the trajectory I have seen in this industry. And again, this is not very linear. Based on where you are, you can adopt one or more the other. And we have seen industries which have businesses which have leapfrogged from not being digital into a very high level of digitization. And if you look at all these points in the trajectory, being on AWS, adopting cloud provides tools, technologies, and know-how in order to adopt at various stages of this maturity curve. And
Okay.
that's what we
Okay.
see.
All right, like you said, Mr. Gopal Krishnan, and picking up from that, that the disruptions due to the pandemic taught us that digitization is necessary for business continuity. I want to ask Mr. Narayan, how will scaling digitization help SMEs maintain their hallmark?
This scaling digitalization is also a concept. Okay, so when we broad brush SMEs, we kind of typecast them into a certain type of company. But when I heard both my co-panelists speaking, I was just thinking about a small SME, which is let's say 50 lakhs to a crore or 2 crores kind of stuff. These are guys
Okay.
who are forced to take up digitization in the places that they need it. For example, if they feel that advertising in the social media helps them get a few more customers, they adopt to just that part of it. They adopt to some payment solutions, etc. I mean, banking has also helped these companies understand so much about use of digital in the way they work. I mean, when we talk MSMEs, including the micros, etc. When you look at vegetable vendor now delivering
Yeah.
vegetables to your house and sending you accepting orders on WhatsApp and sending you bills on WhatsApp, that's the phenomenal amount of change that has come out in this business, right? For him, he is sorry, he's completely changed his business. And as we go up the ladder, uh, HR is probably one of the first places that people jump in to automate, and then the journey starts from there. And when I look at adopting a host of technologies when I see SMEs and especially the smaller guys, what I see is them adopting it in pieces. Somebody
Okay.
jumps onto a payment solution, somebody jumps onto just a CRM, somebody starts with banking first kind of stuff.
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
and yes, I like my co-panelists also said, they introduce a plethora of tools, but they're comfortable using it because they don't have a CIO, CTO, etc. And they depend on the local guy to advise them, and the local guy could be a friend, philosopher, guide, whatever kind of stuff. It's only when they go up a certain scale of maturity, then they start thinking about integrating all of that together. And whereas if you're an ME, a medium enterprise, you've already experienced bits and pieces of it, and here you're trying to create the common data stack, as we spoke about earlier in this program also, kind of stuff. So therefore, this digitization journey is inevitable, but it's happening in different paces for different segments,
Okay.
both in terms of size and in terms of sectors.
All right. So we all can agree that digitization is inevitable, but is happening differently for different segments. Praval, let me come to you now. Zoho helps startups and companies go digital and automate their processes. What is the kind of efficiency you bring in for your clients? If you could take me through some of your offerings.
Sure, Shruti. Like I said, there's no doubt that digitalization is inevitable. We are seeing companies go digital. We are seeing startups. We're seeing individual sellers, small businesses go digital. Take an example of a local merchant being able to take orders even after the working hours and deliver it the next day. Now that is purely because of digital technology, right? And you have things like inventory management, card, shopping cart, payment gateways. All that put together makes that uh, actually possible if you look at it. Now, all that was already happening. It's not that this started in the last couple of years, but what we have seen as a company at Zoho is there's a huge shift in companies. There was some resistance in certain companies, right, in terms of tools, technologies. Spreadsheets were used for storing customer data and so on and so forth, right? Business was happening on WhatsApp, still does. But what the last couple of years has done is it has sort of made a lot of people leapfrog into going digital because they've realized that this is a channel that they were aware about maybe, but were not confident enough, or there was not enough push within internally in the organization or the startup or the SME to sort of take that jump and get familiar with this technology and tools. And so all that is happening. We are seeing that at Zoho, even for us. I mean, think of it. We were about 8,000 people when the pandemic hit. And within 3 days, and we are not technically a remote company, right? We've had offices around the world, and people were coming to the office, and that's how we've been working. We've been around for 25 years in that fashion. But within 3 to 4 days, we went all remote because that's how that was the law of the nature, and it was required to be that way. And the only reason we could do that was because we popularly say that Zoho runs on Zoho. So the company runs on our own technology stack, our software, our applications. And we could do that because we are a technology company that offers technology solutions to other companies. And we also run our own business on that. So the whole idea of having these 50 plus applications across sales, marketing, HR, finance, including productivity collaboration, that enabled us to go digital. And the way a 8,000 people company like us could go, a lot of smaller companies which are customers of ours, including some of the larger companies which were using tools but different vendors, different tools, I think we saw a massive transition from companies wanting to use technology to get this done and actually taking the plunge to solve their problems.
True.
In some companies, it started from in large companies, it started from a particular business unit, like someone said HR or marketing or sales. In smaller companies, we saw the entire company, adopting digital in some way or the other. And I think that's where we are seeing things progress, and there's no looking back.
Okay. Praval, thank you for taking us through your offerings. And like you mentioned, there are many tools and resources that enable SMEs to seamlessly adopt technology, digitize their operations, innovate in their business, accelerate growth, and help India prosper. Mr. Gopal Krishnan, I want to know from you, still India's SMEs are reluctant to scale to their full potential for growth. What do you think are their major apprehensions?
Right. So I think that's a very relevant question. So this is what, as I go through, as I speak to all the leaders, there are some blockers or worries that I see in them. So the first thing I would like to mention is that there is a mindset that many of them have, that why cannot I continue with the status quo, right? Why should I digitize, right? Because I've been running this business fine for so long, right? So the thing that they should realize is what got them here will not get them there, right? So in the sense that they will be left out and the competition will get ahead if they don't digitize, right? So that mindset has to change. It might take some time, right? The other thing that happens is a lack of digital skills and knowledge, right? So there was actually a study conducted by, I think, Cisco. They roped in International Data Corporation. I'm a numbers and a research guy. That's why I kind of keep going back to that.
Yes.
And they analyzed about 1,400 different, small and medium businesses in APJ, right, in Asia Pacific, and they found out that one of the big impediments is the lack of digital skills and knowledge, right? So
True.
that gap has to be bridged. And some of them also have the apprehension that they're giving up control of their systems, for example, when they move to cloud, which is absolutely not the case. They still have full control of their systems. Some of them have this thing that it is probably less secure, right? But that is absolutely not the case, and we've been able to convince a lot of them that their workloads on cloud are probably more secure on the cloud than it would be on premise, right? So the systems, the security constructs, the policies, the
Okay.
checks that have been in place, that are have been put in place for Fortune 500 companies are being made available to them, right? So that is very important for them to realize. And there's also a misconception that cloud is only for the big league companies, which it is not, right? So a lot of small businesses have found success, and ultimately it boils down to the organization culture and support from the leadership that they get, right? That digitalization is imperative, and that we have to kind of start that journey. It's probably a mindset that needs to change.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is there is lack of skill sets, there is myth that cloud is only for the bigger companies, and of course there is a concern related to security. Praval, let me come back to you. You know, when you reach out and onboard your clients, what apprehensions do you encounter? Do you agree with what Mr. Gopalakrishnan just said?
Yes, I do agree with that. And in fact, on the second point, he said that the apprehension bit, right? We've seen
Yeah.
that happen. And again, we've been serving SMBs for over 2 decades now. And what we have seen is, with some of the examples that we gave early on about people getting comfortable with doing transactions online, people using mobile phones to do business and all that. So that gap is definitely getting bridged. The challenge we see is a lot of small businesses, it's not that they don't purchase a piece of technology or tool. More often than not, their teams don't use it. Now that's a challenge. I think the onus is on organizations like us to sort of set up programs, and I'll talk about that briefly. So the
Sure.
thing is, they buy tools but they don't use it. Now that's a problem, which is I think all technology companies have to together solve it, including the government. That is one. The second thing is there's a lot of challenge with proper change management and training. When just buying the tool is not enough for adoption, is another thing that we have seen. How do we solve this, right? I mean, we know what the problems are, but how do we solve this, and how we at Zoho are trying to solve this problem in the country is to create enough avenues for training small businesses, because they need more training. They don't have experts in house for, or at least most of them don't, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, how can we create these hand holding programs in regional languages? And that's again in a country like India and a lot of other developing countries, regional languages play a huge role, and that's why you see today on videos are created in a lot of regional languages, and we are
Yeah.
seeing how the adoption of YouTube and other video channels is growing. So creating these programs and content in multilingual, various regional languages is important. And what we've seen, and we've been doing it even before the pandemic, I would say, is how do you create these field marketing initiatives in different regions locally for people to create, learn, have one-on-one sessions, all of that. So unless that is in place, that inhibition around buying, not just buying the tool, but really implementing it won't go away.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, even the government has been playing a role, but there's a lot that can be done in terms of incentivizing SMEs and MSMEs with good technology infrastructure in terms of tax rebates, tenders, things like that. And one fundamental thing that oftentimes I've seen a lot of small businesses struggle is this thing of, oh, when we go digital, a lot will change, and as the gentleman said, we don't want to do that. So there has to be this thing ingrained that it's the same people building or selling the same technology, or sorry, same product or service, just that technology and digital tools will make the entire process easier and more efficient. Their core
Sure.
business does not change. So that is something I think all of us together have to push forward.
All right, so there needs to be education, and also the fact that just buying is not important. Implementation of those tools is important as well. Mr. Naran, if you could add to what Mr. Praval and Mr. Gopal Krishnan just said, and also if you could tell us what are some pertinent challenges of digitalization for SMEs in the current digital age.
Sure. So the point I just wanted to add was that COVID was a great leveler, right? Any
Yeah.
business that used to operate with 100 people suddenly learned to operate itself with 20 people and 30 people, etc. Right? So what happened in that journey is that as the promoters of these SMEs, etc., came out and business started getting normalized, the clear thought process that went through all their minds, and that's what we keep hearing at Fiki and at Power to SME, is that how do I manage more with less? I mean, I had 5 people in my finance or 10 people in finance. What are the tools? And I brought it down to 3. What are the tools that I can adopt so that I don't have to go back to 10 and I can stay at 5, I can stay at 6 and all of that. And that in a great catalyst for these people to go and find tools and digitize themselves, etc. kind of stuff, right? So that is a big push that the current pandemic has led to digitization. And as we know, digitization really took a leap in India through this pandemic times. People really learned to do more with less and use more tools,
Yes.
etc. And that mindset has opened up, saying that tech is here to help us. And like he was saying, education. Like I remember during the GST times, we actually went out with the big five and did at least 100 seminars across 20-25 cities. And
Okay.
all the SMEs who came in there, we're all eager beavers, saying that how do I adopt to the speed of technology and be seamless kind of stuff. And we saw them cross that great divide at that point of time. So yeah,
Mhm.
education is one of the key challenges, and how we, both my co-panelists at AWS and Zoho, how they manage to train and assure these people. And assuring is one is a personal journey. Like I said, you start with your phone
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
see that nothing happens and you transition it to your business. But we can't let people just take that 12-month,
Absolutely.
24-month process. And how we advance them by introducing them to these tools and make them get comfortable around it, talk to them about the
Sure.
security issues around it, etc., is one of the key challenges.
All right, so let's just
So
ask Praval that, what you just mentioned. Praval, the rapid adoption of new tech disruptions, especially the cloud, has proven that early technology adopters will dominate the industry. What strategies have you used to amplify your business's technology operations?
Yeah, I think it stems from what I said in the beginning of how we're looking at breaking the silos between departments, helping customers get rid of multi-vendor contracts, and creating those what we call the single source of truth within organizations for different teams and different people within the company to be able to truly collaborate. And the collaboration doesn't mean using a messaging app or a chat app or a video call app.
Sure.
Collaboration truly is when you can get your work done seamlessly within the application, with a lot of contextual information. That's something that we strive for. And the way we've been able to achieve that, both for us and for our customers, is having this, what we call the unified tech stack, everything from the hardware layer all the way to the application layer. That's the biggest, I would say, breakthrough that we've achieved in our existence of over 2 decades. The other thing
Okay.
is, and again, it's talked much more today than it was earlier, is the focus on privacy. Again, 10 years ago, privacy wasn't really a big deal, both from a
Mm.
B2C and B2B perspective. But today, both governments, organizations, individuals do care about their privacy, right? There's a lot of talk
Absolutely.
about
Yes.
it. Of course, a lot of education still has to happen, a lot of policies still have to come in, but there's definitely awareness in customers around privacy. And customers are not okay with their data being shared without their consent. Now, that's an
Mm.
important differentiator, at least for us as a company, which is a privately held company with no advertising business model. So that's something that our customers truly appreciate when they work with us. And the last thing is, this virtual world is not going to go away. At best, it would be hybrid, which is where we are seeing it move. So we have made considerable investments in the last 10 years in our audio video technology infrastructure. And again, it stems back to the point that collaboration is not just a separate category as a messaging app or as a video app. It has to be weaved into every business applications that we use or create. So these are
Yeah.
things that sort of we are progressing with as a company for ourselves as well as our customers.
Okay, okay. Mr. Narayan, coming to you now, like Praval said, that the virtual world is not going to go anywhere. What strategies do you suggest that SMBs must adopt to amplify their business tech operations?
the virtual world has become the real world actually now, right? So if I just throw back a few examples at Fiki, we used to meet with our SME members, talk about their problems, what policies to take to the government, etc., kind of stuff. And we used to do that maybe once a quarter, at best twice a quarter. Today, at the drop of a hat, we are able to put together a program and ask for financing. What problems do you face in financing, kind of stuff. And because of this virtual world, we have CEOs of at least 50 to 100 SMEs actually participating and coming forward, and the whole ability to put together the needs that the SME segment has shortened from a 3-month cycle to a 2-week cycle. And we
Yes.
going back to the policy makers with fresh proposals about where the SME is hurting and all of that. And all of that is because the SME is adapted to the fact and realized that he doesn't have to come and travel to Delhi to made himself heard. And they are adopting more and more to it. And I think, like I said, you said that how will we digitize them as the need comes up, they will do it themselves. What we need to give them is the exposure and tell them what is available, and they
Okay.
will start drinking the water themselves from the pond.
All right, so we need to give them exposure, and the SMEs will do what is needed. Mr. Gopal Krishnan, coming to you now. We've spoken about how SMBs can amplify their reach, but tell me, how can cloud help SMEs innovate? If you could take me through some use cases, also, can businesses be cost competitive by adopting cloud?
Absolutely. But before that, let me just speak about one Mr. Narayan said. He was spot on when he said that the virtual world has brought a lot of people closer together now, right? So that is something that people are discovering. So if you look at cloud, right? So if you look at SMB that have adopted cloud, it opens a plethora of opportunities, right? In order for them to innovate. For example, when they had data centers, they had to wait for a long time in order to kind of whip up infrastructure so that they can experiment and innovate. But with the advent of cloud, that all goes away. They can be very agile and very fast, right? So which is very, very important for innovation. And beyond that, they can go global in minutes, right? With the infrastructure that we have spread across the
Absolutely.
world, it is very easy for them to go global, right? And again, we have a lot of tools and technologies for them to optimize cost, right? Which means that it does away with a lot of capital expenditure that they had to incur before, and everything is converted to operational expenditure now, right? Which makes it much easier for them, and they don't have to spend a lot of money upfront, right? So there is no more sunk cost, etc., and they can whip up infrastructure, do whatever they want, and give it back, right? So that is very, very important for innovation, which is experimentation, right? So cloud brings all this at their doorstep in a secure manner, so that they can build applications securely and reliably.
All right, Mr. Narayan, coming to you now. Along with cost competitiveness, what is your view on cloud adoption and bringing in efficiency?
So it's absolutely imperative, digitizing your business, bringing in the cloud into your business to run it more efficiently. I mean, if I look at it from two ways, assuming you're a manufacturing unit, today sitting in your chair, you can actually go to companies like Power to SME or SME shops, etc., and discover pricing for the raw material that you use, and that definitely makes an impact on your gross margins. You lower your cost of goods, and therefore you become more competitive. Your bottom line looks better. When I look below that line, when you look at the OPEX costs, like I said even earlier, COVID taught us to do more with less. So today, with 10 people, the job that you do, you started wondering about how I can do the same job with 3 people and 2 tools, right? And that kind of brings in an efficiency of 30, 40, 50% in terms of your OPEX. So both of them put together, by adopting cloud, by adopting these tools that make you work smarter and more efficient, you see a definitely healthier bottom line and less clutter around the place, right?
Absolutely. So let me go across to Praval. Praval, what is the kind of efficiency you've seen SMEs make with cloud? If you could again take me through some use cases.
Sure, that's a very valid point you brought towards the end. Back in the day, technology was considered as things which is for big businesses. It is not for us as a small business, right? Beyond maybe email collaboration, things like that, right? That is changing because, see, we have to remember SMBs operate in lean environments with very limited resources and little to no IT expertise, and that cloud software not just reduces their initial capex, right? It makes it a lot easier for them to run their operations without having to manage their entire IT systems, which is SMEs, something that SMEs just cannot manage, right? So that's something we have to remember. The other thing is, how cloud today enables things like real-time insights, automating processes, remote collaboration, and so on and so forth. And how we're seeing this happen in the industry over these years is, there's a lot of consolidation that we're seeing happen. A lot of vendors are now filling these gaps that we're talking about via acquisitions, right? And because there's a need for it. If you want to offer unified experience, you need the full stack that we're talking about. So we are able to offer that by having been built the apps ground up in all these years. And
Yeah.
this is becoming increasingly popular in SMEs, is what we are seeing. Increasingly, SMEs want to go for full stack solutions to be able to offer the kind of customer experience and employee experience that we talk about.
Okay, Prabal, there's one follow-up question for you. Smart SMEs realize the tremendous efficiencies in operational and strategic activities that cloud provides. Now, as the implementation of multiple technologies and tools across the organization becomes easier via a single platform, the complexity is eliminated. How has consistent digital adoption benefited your organization post-pandemic, and how are you planning to leverage on it in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it comes down from two things. One is having that common stack, which enables different business functions to work together, like I said earlier. And that is achieved in our case by building this full stack solution. But the other interesting aspect of it, and more relevant for, I would say, larger companies, including ours, we are today about 11,000 people, is that ability to integrate and interoperate with other technology solutions, right? And how you can diversify a solution by bringing the best of certain capabilities that you as a vendor may not offer, we as a vendor may not offer, right? So that's the best of on sort of could be on-prem, on cloud, hybrid. And we have seen this kind of demand coming from a lot of larger companies we deal with, right? Because they may have an existing system, they may not want to replace it, which is perfectly fine. But if they're implementing our technology, they would want that to work together. So making that possible is, I think, one of the biggest breakthroughs for larger companies to come on board. For smaller companies, I think, as we discussed earlier, the biggest thing is adoption, education, and training. And that's where I think today we are investing most of our time and energy in not just tools and technology, which already exist and are continuously getting better and better, but how do we enable people to come on board quickly? And that is provided in multiple ways, including making our software certain plans free of cost, and then freemium offering where there's a little to no friction to come on board and try it before they buy it, so on and so forth. And most software technology vendors today choose the freemium path to roll out their offerings.
All right, before I wrap up this session, final comments from the three of you on what SMEs should be mindful of to further innovate and accelerate their business in the new normal. Mr. Narayan, can we start with you, please?
So, like I said, there is like we always say, there is no looking back. What got you here is not going to get you to the next level, right? So the thing is always that you have to keep looking at how you can become a meaner and a sleeker machine at all given points of time. You have to look at your P&L and look at what is it that can help you reduce your cost of goods in the first place, and that is participate in all these B2B sites like Power to SME shops, etc., and lower your cost of goods. And then, of course, the second part is how to bring in more efficiency. What this world has taught us, taught all our customers, is that transparency is of utmost importance. When I look at all the customers, they want to know at any given point of time where they stand in terms of their material, what is the credit line that they have, what is the use of the credit line that they have done, etc. And they want it at a click of a button. So if you're not able to provide it to them, he moves on to the next guy who can. So it's no longer a fancy tool to have, it's a must-do tool to keep your customers happy.
All right. Okay, Mr. Gopal Krishnan, your views.
So absolutely. I think one of the biggest changes that has to happen is, mindset, technology, education, help, a lot of that is available, but they need to understand that they cannot continue the status quo, right? So we made a lot of things available to them. And as I said, probably what got them here to be profitable, to be backbone of this country, will not get them where they want to go in the future, right? So they have to get into the bandwagon, or the competition will get ahead of them.
Okay. Prabal, your final comments.
Sure, Shruti. As everyone said, right? I mean, there's no looking back. It all has to move forward from here. What we have seen, I think, two things that come to my mind in terms of what SMBs can really do and should focus on, and some of the good brands in the SME segment, including really small companies, including DTC brands, that come to my mind is what they do really well. Is a they work on building their brand. And again, building your brand doesn't really mean running a lot of ads. That's one way to build a brand, but I'm talking about the way a lot of small companies are building brands using marketplaces or their own websites by providing exceptional customer experience, right? And that is something that is both outward and inward. I mean, it's not just you
Yes.
buy a customer experience platform and you can offer customer experience. No, it has a lot to do with the culture of the company, how you empower your team, what they think about when you talk about customer experience. Customer experience is not customer support. It's customer support is only part of it. So when an entire company is oriented towards offering exceptional customer support, it changes the value and the perception of the brand. And that's something that we've seen extensively for us and for our customers,
Okay.
help differentiate them. Because a lot of these things that we today buy, sell, procure is becoming a commodity. And there are a lot of players in the market that sell or offer the same thing. How you differentiate yourself, how you establish your brand,
Yes.
is something very, very important, I believe. And that's something is worth thinking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for those insights, all three of you. Now we have a special presentation by Mr. Gopal Krishnan Ramaswamy and Mr. To Tech Head SMB India SARC at Amazon Web Services. Over to you.
Hello, I'm Gopalakrishnan Ramaswamy. I lead the technology in the small and medium business segment at AWS India or ASPL. Both in 2 decades of working in technology for various enterprises, big and small, I've affected digital transformations in many of them. It gives me great pleasure to be speaking to you now. Before I begin, I want to tell you about a personal anecdote that stuck with me over the years. When I was young, I got a new job and I was somewhere in the eastern part of India in Orissa. And then a super cyclone struck with winds probably north of 150 kilometers an hour. The devastation that it wreaked was actually beyond imagination. A lot of people lost their lives, their livelihoods. Supply chain was completely disrupted, and it looked like the end of days. And it looked like we could take many months to come out of it. To my surprise, in a very short time, 2 or 3 years, a lot of things started coming back online, right? So I could all the shops, the mom and pop stores, etc. They started coming up, and life returned to normalcy very soon. So this episode of resiliency of Indians and the businesses stuck with me over the years. The contributions SMEs, small and medium enterprises, have made to our economy, essentials, export, and employment is nothing short of monumental. They keep the economy up and running. They continue to build locally. They take their businesses online at record pace. They manage supply chain disruptions, as I told you, and they sustain India's exports. When the COVID pandemic struck, they pivoted to manufacturing health essentials pretty quickly. They were very nimble, and in doing so, India became one of the largest COVID essentials exporter in a very short time. They've been actively adapting their business model to the new normal, and they continue to keep the lights on. And in the process, they help to improve the livelihood of millions in both urban and rural areas. By doing this, they have not just sustained but propelled India forward. So let us look at what is the opportunity in front of them. What does the future hold for them, right? So there was a study conducted by Cisco some time back where they roped the International Data Corporation, and they gathered and analyzed data from more than 1,400 SMBs across 14 countries in Asia Pacific. And what they found out was digitization of SMBs could add up to 216 billion to India's GDP by 2025, right? And they also found that 68% of SMBs are already on the path to digitization and have digitized various products and services. 60% are aware of transformation effort by peers and want to adopt pace to keep pace with rivals. And another 50% want to adopt these digital technologies due to shift in customer preferences, right? Again, one of the biggest blockers they cited was the short of digital skills and talented people, which is one of the hurdles in their efforts towards digitalization. Right? And it is no longer an option for SMBs. It is a matter of survival. Right? And if you see, it opens up new avenues for SMEs to scale globally, right? Um, it creates opportunities quicker and quicker every day. And businesses in every industries, they need to utilize these technologies to advance, not only to stay competitive, but also to survive. So now that we know that these small and medium businesses are the backbone of Indian economy, right, and they are the enterprises and unicorns of tomorrow. During our annual SMB summit, Amazon Sambhav, our then CEO Jeff Bezos, he pledged to incrementally invest 1 billion towards digitizing 10 million SMBs in India, right? So AWS is actually a subsidiary of Amazon, and we own 25% of the pledge, which means we have a pledge to digitize at least 2.5 million Indian SMBs by being their direct or indirect cloud platform of choice. So what this means is that capacity can grow and shrink instantly, right? And businesses just pay for what they use, right? So Amazon is unique in many ways in how it operates. One of them is that we have over a decade of experience building and operating Amazon.com, right? And we realized that we had developed a core competency in operating massive scale technologies and data centers, and we embarked on a mission to offer this to developers and businesses to build sophisticated, secure, and scalable applications. So what this means is that the cutting edge core technology that drives very big businesses is now made available to even small businesses. So I just told you about how this delivery, on-demand delivery of IT resources is being made by what we call as the global cloud infrastructure. Let us see a little more what it is, right? So the global cloud infrastructure for AWS is the most secure, extensible, and reliable cloud platform, which offers 200 fully featured services from data centers globally, right? So whether you need to deploy your applications, workloads across the globe in a single click, which means small businesses can go global within minutes, or you want to deploy specific applications closer to end users with single digit millisecond latency, AWS provides you the cloud infrastructure where and when you need it, right? We have millions of active customers and tens of thousands of partners globally, and it has a very dynamic and vibrant ecosystem. Customers across virtual every industry and of every size, startups, enterprises, public sector organizations are running every imaginable use case on AWS, right? And some of the benefits of this global infrastructure, if you see, is security, availability, performance, global footprint, scalability, which means the system can scale up and down based on the business needs, flexibility. Why do customers choose AWS, right? So there are some specific reasons. There are many reasons, and some of them are it converts your capital expenditure to what we call as operational expenditure, which is OPEX, right? So there is no upfront capital investment that is required, right? You don't need to have a dedicated IT department or a data center infrastructure to deploy and manage technology, right? You can choose from a ready-made catalog of services available at your disposal and can scale up and down depending on your needs. And these resources are literally available at the click of a button, right? And this is very important. You pay only for what you use, right? So this is very important for all businesses, especially small businesses. So you don't need to develop customer IT applications. You can just download the cloud-based applications quickly, customize in a few steps before using them, and access the same anytime, anywhere across any device, right? Be it mobile, PC, and tablet. You need not invest time in designing which technology platform to use, but you just have to identify the business use case and leave the rest to the cloud platform, right? Again, as I said before, we provide access to bleeding edge of technology. So there's actually no difference between infrastructure as well as the service that is provided either to a Fortune 500 company or to a small business like yours, right? So which means that we have democratized technology and made it accessible for anywhere, anyone, anywhere, anytime. So to understand this more, we worked with IDC to interview Indian organizations running various workloads in AWS, right? And these benefits, the benefits that these organizations reported achieving is telling 49% operational cost reduction over 5 years, meaning they reduced the cost by close to half. 42% improved application performance, 87% less unplanned downtime. and they were able to deliver twice the number of apps per year. So this was the effect of cloud on their businesses. So as I said, there are millions of customers who are active on AWS. They have found success. There are millions of small businesses also who've been actively developing and found success on AWS. I just like to mention a few of them. Right. So the first of my examples is Chumbak, which is an interesting lifestyle brand that most of you already know. Like along with a lot of mortar and brick and mortar stores, they also had an intricate web store, right, on AWS to activate the e-commerce channels in parallel. And this came in very handy when COVID struck, right? When driven by these online campaigns, their web store witnessed 10x traffic growth, right? And since it was powered by what we call as the auto scaling feature in AWS, wherein the system infrastructure scales up and down based on a business needs, they were able to really scale up and meet the increased demand, right? The other is, Havmore, an ice cream manufacturer, which is a 75-year-old brand in India. They had a rapid expansion in terms of outlets, franchise, and partnerships. They needed their ERP to be more agile, always available and accessible, secure and reliable, right? And they migrated their ERP to AWS. So this move actually proved to be a blessing in disguise as the pandemic hit. Right? So despite the lockdowns and other continuing on-site employee presence and restrictions, this resulted in they could conduct business with zero downtime. Right? And this resulted in savings from anywhere between 50 lakhs to 2 crore per day. Another interesting is Credit B, who are in the business of assessing loan eligibility for students and self-employed users, as well as newly banked individuals. Given the new normal, where people cannot move freely, Credit B had to reinvent the eligibility assessment process, and they moved on to 100% remote identity verification, right? And remember, when you move to fully remote identity verification, there is an increased risk of fraud and security breaches, right? However, they were able to adopt cloud services, and thanks to their apps built on AWS, they were now able to end-to-end confirm an applicant's identity and digitally and remotely. And the loan disbursement grew by 25x with zero reported security breaches or fraud, right? Again, another very good example is, as you see day to day, our retail, going online with e-commerce platforms such as Amazon. Right? In last year alone, we had 2.5 lakh retailers, more than 2.5 lakh retailers and SMBs coming online with Amazon India, and in the process, they expanded their footprint and revenue growth significantly. So, how can you start using AWS? Right? So, what are some of the common use cases? Right? So you can access storage faster. You can reduce your spend on storage, right? You can secure your storage. You can fuel innovative insights based on the data you store. You can extend your secondary storage target to the cloud, right? So if you're running a business on-site, you can extend and get more storage on the cloud, right? Amazon Web Services also offers web hosting solutions that provide businesses, nonprofits, and government organizations with low-cost way to deliver their websites and web applications, as you know, right? You can migrate any workload, applications, websites, database, storage, physical or virtual servers, and even entire data centers from an on-premise environment hosting facility or other public cloud to AWS. What this means is you can do away with running, maintaining data centers and move entirely your IT infrastructure to the cloud. Another example could be you could forecast demand for your businesses and be better prepared. There's another use case a lot of SMBs use on AWS, right? You can also leverage this technology to create the best possible customer experience across the entire customer lifecycle. So, as part of Amazon's commitment to digitize 10 million in SMBs, as I told you before, by 2025, AWS launched the Smb Digital Suite in partnership with the ISV partners. It's actually a set of easy-to-use, ready-made, cloud-based software, mostly software as a service, as you know it. It is powered by AWS, and it is offered at exclusive price points through a very familiar Amazon.in marketplace. Right? So this digital suite supports SMBs through various stages of their growth life cycle with easy and convenient access to technology, resources, and SME first solutions, thereby accelerating their digital transformation. These are ready-made turnkey solutions that help SMBs to get started fast and at low cost. It is designed for SMBs to automate their day-to-day businesses, which includes ledger, cataloging, customer support, chat, lead management, payroll, staff management, employee management, payments, and working capital credits. The subsequent versions of the suite will have software covering GST and business compliance, email, website builder, accounting, ERP, productivity meetings, collaboration, and analytics. Right? So we're expanding the scope of these. And digital suite comes with consolidated invoicing, which is very important, auto renewal, and evergreen one-touch support. And the support is very important for small businesses. So what are the advantages of this digital suite that I told you about? Right, some of the advantages are accessibility. So you can access it easily from the familiar Amazon retail marketplace on both mobile and desktop without having to spend time and resources searching for it across multiple sites. Right, affordability. So Digital Suite offers SMB first software as low as INR 20 up to 75% discount with Amazon exclusive benefits. Amazon Digital Suite products come with low exit barrier, which means there is no long-term commitments, only monthly subscriptions. Monthly subscriptions to give SMEs more flexibility when adopting a new technology. Right, so there is no upfront commitment that you require from SMBs. Again, simplicity is purchasing. Amazon Digital Suite it's like purchasing any other product on Amazon. Right, so we just have a set of solutions to aid SMB selection, and once customer purchase the software, they can start using it just a few simple steps, and there's no complicated paperwork required. And again, support, it comes with priority onboarding and support to make SMEs technology adoption experience very seamless. Again, here are some examples of what this digital suite includes, how businesses can use them. Right. So for small manufacturers and exporters, you can try out Zoho Inventory solution to manage your inventory. As manufacturers like yourself spend the bulk of your time managing the flow of inventory, orders, and sales across different channels and customers, Zoho Inventory is an inventory management solution that comprises of cutting-edge features such as real-time inventory, tracking and reporting, multi-channel selling that enables you to sell and manage your stocks on multiple offline on online channels easily. It also has order management, fulfillment tools that streamline and make your operations more efficient. They also save you time and cost on managing these operations. Lastly, we also have Grey HR. And so Grey HR is a human resource solution that allows you to manage the end-to-end HR process from managing your employee database, leave and attendance, to the automatic disbursement of salaries, all managed from a single platform. Right? So we understand this is important for manufacturers who have probably say 20 or more employees, because with this solution, you can be spending fewer time and effort managing your employees. Right? You can save cost on hiring more people in HR, and more time and money can be spent on growing your businesses. So let us recap what we just saw. Right? So we saw the impact. We saw that these more than 75 million SMBs at the backbone of India, how they're sustaining our exports. They've not just sustained but propelled our country forward. We also saw the opportunity in front of the SMBs, what the future holds for them. Like 2025, probably more than 200 billion is going to be added to India's GDP from these SMBs. We moved on to see that our pledge to digitize about 10 million SMBs by 2025. And one of the most crucial factors there would be the adoption of cloud. We also saw what cloud was and specifically how AWS operates. What are some of the use cases that SMBs can adopt AWS for, how they can find success? What are some of the services that they can use? We also some examples of customers who have found success on AWS, either using storage, migrating their workloads, or setting up websites. We also saw the digital suite, which are very kind of turnkey solutions that SMBs can use and get started very soon with very low cost. We also saw some examples of these digital solutions like Zoho Inventory or Grey HR. And finally, I would like to say that digitization is very important for SMBs. It is not just an option; it is also a matter of survival for them. Right? With that, I'd like to say, let us innovate together into a brighter future for the SMBs in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramaswamy, for this insightful presentation. And a special thank you to Mr. Narayan and Mr. Singh for joining us today and providing our audience with such great insights. Final comments: as SMEs embark on their growth journey, leveraging on digital and tech first solutions is imperative. Adopting digitalization and digital first tools can stimulate innovation and help SMEs reduce costs, standardize, and automate businesses, processes, and help the enterprises of tomorrow to make local and go global. With that, it's a wrap on the first Tech Shala of Digital Bharat 2.0. Many thanks for watching.